started. So now it's time to start editing on DaVinci Resolve 19. So here we go. I'm editing on Mac, but if there are any difference in the settings between Mac and Windows, I'll let you know throughout the class. So my DaVinci Resolve is just there. So for the sake of this class, I'm using in this section the free version of DaVinci Resolve, and then later when I would tell you the studio features, then I would switch to the studio version. So if you change your mind and if you want to switch to studio later, then you can buy studio as well, because for me as a professional, I think it's 100% worth it, but you can decide for yourself by the end of this class. So yeah, let's start the free version. So I would just click here and the studio would work the exact same way. Whatever I'm teaching in the free version, it's also in the studio as well. So yeah, as soon as we start DaVinci Resolve 19, this is the first page. So here what you should be doing, I also did a DaVinci Resolve test. So yeah, all your recent projects would be there, so you don't have to go in the computer to search for them. So how you start a new project is you start by going here to the new project. So let's start. And once I press on the new project button, it starts. So I would do maybe DaVinci Resolve 19 test 1. So yeah, I would go create, and once I press create, then this page pops up. If you're using Resolve for the first time, sometimes the outlet of the pages would be very different. Sometimes you have opened, sometimes DaVinci opens this page, which is the media page, or sometimes this, or sometimes this. So it really depends on your system. So yeah, if we go here, if you check my mouse here at the bottom of the screen, this is the media tab. So if I just press here, this should be the outlet. Doesn't matter if you're using Windows or Mac. This is how it looks. So first and foremost thing, what we're gonna start is the most important part of editing in DaVinci Resolve is some project settings. DaVinci Resolve already has some presets, but I have tried them. I've edited with those presets for years, but I think the preset what I'm gonna show you is probably the best and the easiest to work with. So project settings, and it's also good to know what project settings are so that when you want to change it in future, you can change it. So if I go in the right side here in the corner, there's a settings button. So if I click that, then the project settings starts. The first thing is master settings. So here in master setting, you have timeline resolution, which is 1920 by 1080p. This is the high definition resolution. And I would recommend to edit in this timeline resolution, because if you edit in say 4K or 8K, 8K is not available in the free version, but if you edit in 4K, then that might make your computer slow. So I would recommend to edit in the timeline resolution this, and even if your footage is 4K, you can edit in high definition but export in 4K, which I'm going to teach you later. So if you want to make a normal horizontal video, you choose this resolution. But if you are making a reel or a short form content, then you can use vertical resolution. So this horizontal size becomes vertical. But for the sake of this class, we are just using the horizontal resolution. So we'll choose that. But there are all different types of resolutions here. So yeah, generally just choose this one. And I wouldn't change any of this setting in pixel aspect ratio, just leave it to square. This is the most important part, timeline frame rate. You have to change it already in the beginning before you import any clips, because as soon as you import even a single clip in DaVinci Resolve, you cannot change the timeline resolution. For example, if I imported in DaVinci Resolve a clip of 60 frames per second, DaVinci Resolve would make the timeline frame rate as 60 frames per second. But in general terms, if you are filming a normal pace video like what is going on now, you don't want to do crazy slow motion or so, then I would recommend to go with 23:976 or 24 or 25. So you also have to check that what frame rate your camera has shot the video at. Sometimes you can choose 30, but it doesn't look that cinematic. It's like all the films and all the TV shows and all the series, they are shot in 23:976. and that's the frame rate what I'm filming this video as well, and that's the frame rate what I have filmed the videos what I'm gonna show you in the class. So if you are editing with me, then I would recommend you to choose that. But if you are living in PAL region, then you might have different frame rate, which is the 25 frames per second. So you have to really check what frame rate your camera has shot the video at. So yeah, let's do 23.976. So this you have to do every time. Yeah, so then later I would also show you how you can make it as a preset and make it as a default setting. So I don't change this. I don't change any of these settings every time I open DaVinci Resolve because I have a default preset. And then video monitoring, I would leave it to that. That's the exact same frame rate as what it is here, but if you chose 25 or 30, you have to change it to 25 or 30. And I wouldn't change anything here in video monitoring. And here, if you see optimized media and render cache. So one good part about editing in DaVinci Resolve is that even if your computer, Mac, PC, whatever, is not that strong, you can still edit really high quality, or you can still edit big footage with converting them in lower resolution. And once you have to export it, then you can export in highest quality, which I'm gonna tell later. But yeah, even if your footage is really, taxing on the system, you can reduce the quality of the footage while editing so that the playback of the footage is good when you are editing in the software. So that's when proxy media resolution comes. So what proxy media does is that if my, say, original footage is in 4K and it's super heavy footage and it's super difficult to edit with, then with one press of a button, DaVinci would make proxy media, and those proxy media would be a low resolution file, and then DaVinci would enable you to edit in those proxy media. So it's like even if you have a complicated footage, you are editing the low resolution version of that footage while editing. So that's what proxy media is. So proxy media is a low resolution of your high resolution footage. So there are some settings that you have to change that what my proxy media would be according to your system. So if you're using Mac, then you can keep this setting. But if you're using Windows, then you have to choose different settings. So if DNxHRHQ, if you change it to that format in Windows, then the proxy media runs really, really smooth. So you have to also change here as well, HQ. So you have to change here as well if you're using Windows. But if I'm using Mac, then I would keep the settings what I had before. But anyways, I wouldn't save it. I would just cancel it. So I have my original settings and enable background cache after 5 seconds. So just leave it to 5 seconds. It's, I think, too advanced to explain it now, but it would all make sense later during our project. And here, after the proxy media organization, now we go to the working folders. So proxy media generation location. So because all your original footage and the complicated and the difficult to edit footage is in one folder, you can choose a different folder where DaVinci would be making a proxy media. And that folder, I would recommend that location to have the highest speed. So if you have a really fast SSD, or even if your computer speed is really fast, you should choose that location as a proxy generation location, because that's the footage what we would be editing on. So for me, it's just there because I barely use proxy media, but I'll show you how to use it. So yeah, for me, the proxy media location is here. You can just browse and choose any other location in your computer. I would cancel that. And then cache file location. So while you are editing, DaVinci also makes a lot of cache files. So that location you can choose as well in an empty drive, and make sure that you have a lot of space there, because that also can be a problem that DaVinci would stop making cache files. So yeah, always make sure that wherever you put all these locations of these folders, you have enough space. And then gallery still location is, for me, it's here. So yeah, you can choose any location you want depending on you. Still locations is there if you are exporting a lot of stills from your videos, like for thumbnail or just stills from any of the clip, that's where DaVinci would save. And then frame interpolation, I would just leave it here. So yeah, that was the master settings. If nothing made sense, just copy my settings, and the more you would work on DaVinci Resolve, the more it would make sense. Color management is the most important thing. So here, when you open your DaVinci, the color management would be completely different. So it would usually be DaVinci YRGB, but I use DaVinci YRGB color managed to make sure that whatever colors I'm putting on my footage, on most of the screens, those colors would be same. So this is DaVinci's advanced color manage option. So yeah, I would just keep this as a setting, and then color processing mode, I think it would have selected SDR Rec 709, but I would ask you to go to custom. Then after the custom, then you do input color space this, timeline color space Rec 709, gamma 2.4, all these settings same. Here, if you are using Mac, then keep your settings to Rec 709A, but if you're using Windows, just do Rec 709 scene. Yeah, so for Windows, Rec 709 scene, for Mac, Rec 709A. Very, very important. I wouldn't do anything here. And then lookup tables or LUTs. But I think it's better to talk about LUTs and other filters when we are talking about color grading, which I'm really excited to teach. But yeah, don't worry about this section. I also wouldn't worry about broadcast safe. I would leave it the same. Yeah, a lot of settings to keep in mind. Next, you go to general. So here I wouldn't change anything. I would just leave everything how it is. Because yeah, I have been editing for years in DaVinci Resolve and I haven't even looked here at once. So nothing, I wouldn't change anything. Capture and playback. So here, what is your video playback? So I would change it to 23.976 if it's not the same playback frame rate as how we chose in the beginning. Here I would keep the exact same settings, and codec for me is Apple ProRes HQ. If you are using Windows, then it would be whatever the default setting is, just leave it to that, really leave it to that. And then save clips. Whenever you export DaVinci Resolve videos, where are they gonna be saved? So this is the location for me. You can save it wherever you want. So it's really up to you. I wouldn't change anything after that. Then let's go subtitle and transcription. I would leave it here because you can also change these settings when you are actually doing subtitles. Fairlight page, some settings of Fairlight, I have never changed it, so don't worry about it. Path mapping, I wouldn't change it, so I wouldn't worry about it. So now once you have changed all the settings, now it's time to save these settings. So here, if you see the three dots here, I would click here, and if you see here, I have different settings. So what I would do is that I would just go and save current setting as a default preset. That's what I have been doing. So that's what you should press, because I'm not pressing it because I have made some changes for Windows computer. So I wouldn't change it. So I would leave my settings as is, but you should be doing set current setting as default preset. So every time you open DaVinci Resolve, you don't even have to worry about any of the settings. You just go straight to editing. But I think it's really important to know these things, when you're learning it for the first time. So I would press that. But yeah, that was the project settings. Now, another important thing of editing in DaVinci Resolve is some more settings that you have to change. So if you just click here, DaVinci Resolve, you go to Preferences, then another window opens. So here, the first one, Memory and GPU. So DaVinci Resolve uses the system's GPU. It's not too much dependent on the RAM. So this is, it's asking that how much system memory you're gonna be using. So this is a RAM memory. So I have just put it to the fullest. So I'm using M1 Max, MacBook Pro M1 Max. So yeah, it works pretty good on mine. And even if you have M1 Pro, it's really gonna work fine. And if you have Windows with a good configuration, DaVinci is a software which is not super taxing on the system. When I switched to DaVinci Resolve, I was editing on Windows and it was just flawless. I switched from Premiere, which was always crashing on my Windows laptop, I think back in 2018. And then I switched to DaVinci and I was like, wow, like it's just so fast and so smooth and never crashes. So yeah, leave these settings as it is. And here I would just choose auto, because then DaVinci would automatically choose the GPU from my MacBook. So that's the setting here. Media storage. Here would be all the exported files, or if you want, you can add another location. I'm not going to do it. This don't worry about it. Nothing, I have never changed nothing, so don't worry about it. Audio plugins, I don't even touch it, so don't worry. Control panels, nah, don't worry. General, here, if you're a Mac user, one thing you should really keep in mind is to turn on this one. So automatically tag Rec 709 scene clips as Rec 709A. I didn't do it when I switched to Mac, and every time when I would export the videos, it would look really nice and colorful in DaVinci Resolve, but the main export would be a bit more desaturated. The reason was that I didn't tick on this and automatically check for updates if you want your DaVinci to be updated. So yeah, I have done that, and yeah, those were the few settings. In general, I haven't connected it, like it's the thing that you can directly export from DaVinci and upload it already on YouTube or any other social media platforms. I have not done it. I think I would prefer just to manually upload. And then we go to advanced, nothing in advanced. So next we go to user on the right hand side. Here, if these things are tick, good. If these things are not tick, tick it. Just keep the same settings as mine. Here's one thing is really important. Load all timelines and event opening projects. I wouldn't tick it because that's really taxing on the system. Save settings, live save. So what's also a really good part about DaVinci Resolve is that every time when you are editing, DaVinci would automatically just save every millisecond. So even if something happens and your computer crashes, you would literally have the live saved like few milliseconds before it crashed, in the software. So next time when you open it, it would really open where you left it. So that's why live save is really important. Project backups as well. So it keeps backing up the project as you go, and timeline backups as well. So it keeps backing up the timelines as well. And then you can choose here, perform backup every 10 minutes, or you can reduce it down. I have kept it 10 minutes because I think that I don't really do crazy amount of changes in less than 10 minutes. So I just put it 10. So yeah, daily I just keep these settings the same, and then you can choose the backup location. So my backup location is quite simple. Here, movies, Resolve project backup. You can choose your backup wherever you want, wherever you have space. Let's go to editing now. So start time code, I have put it to 000. I don't change any of this. Sometimes this time code is 001 in the end, so put it to 000. Color, I don't change anything here. Fairlight, nothing. Playback settings, I don't do nothing. Here also, I don't change anything. Metadata, nothing. So yeah, these were the few settings that you should be changing in the general settings as well. So I wouldn't save it because I don't know if I change anything, so I would do cancel. But yeah, you can also make another preset. So save preset, save user preset at this, or you can also I already have a preset here. So once you have a preset, you can load it, update it, export it. So yeah, now we are done with some of the settings, the boring part of starting with any video editing software, but it's also really important at the same time.